Hello, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to the stories of our people. I am truly blessed to be on this screen with two of my esteemed colleagues. First of all, I'm Rabbi Bryan Zive of Congregation Shir if you don't know who I am. I am on with two of my esteemed colleagues here to talk about the Torah portion Yitro, Rabbi Miriam Phillips of Temple Bat Yahm. Hi, Miriam. Rabbi
Good morning.
Miriam.
Shabbat Shalom.
And Rabbi Joe Mendelsohn of Reformed Temple of Laguna Woods. Hello, Rabbi Joe.
Shabbat Shalom. How are you, Bryan?
I am absolutely spectacular and ready to talk about this Torah portion, which is incredibly deep, has a lot of very, what I would call, life altering and community altering changes here. So Parashat Yitro. And Rabbi Joe, just remind us, who's Yitro again?
Who's Yitro?
Who is Yitro?
He is Moses' father-in-law. He's a Midian priest. When Moses was running away from Pharaoh, he went to Midian and ended up working for Yitro as a shepherd. And that, of course, starts the whole story with the Exodus.
Yeah, absolutely. Rabbi Miriam, anything catching your attention about this particular portion? I mean, there's a lot here, but I wanted to give you first dibs.
There is so much here, and we have the 10 commandments in this portion, so it's hard to beat that. And yet, that's not what I am noticing this morning. This portion starts with Yitro hearing that the Israelites have escaped Egypt. They haven't even made it to Sinai and the revelation of Mount Sinai, and he comes with Zipporah and his grandsons to greet Moses. And Zipporah is Moses's wife, and they warmly welcome each other. And then the next morning, Yitro gets to watch Moses do his thing as he sits in judgment over the people and helps them with all their problems. And he's totally worn out. Like he's sitting there from morning to evening. And at the end of that, Yitro says, you're not doing this right, basically. All right. And he's talking from a place of expertise. Here he is, a Midianite priest in an established, this cousin's tribe to us. And he's telling Moses how to establish a people, and he gives him the advice to appoint heads of thousands and hundreds and fifties and tens, and have basically chiefs and judges who make these decisions. And Moses is like the Supreme Court. And he says to Moses, this thing will make the burden lighter for you, and it will make the burden lighter for the people too. So one of the incredible things is that Moses immediately hears him, this really, really kind of hard-hitting constructive feedback. You're doing it wrong, dude. And turns around and makes a change. I was struck at this time about the language that Yitro uses at the very end. And I'm looking at the JPS translation in Plout, and he says, to Moses, if you do this and God so commands you, you will be able to bear up, and all these people too will go home unwearied. Very insightful, very sensitive to the emotional needs of everybody and the burden. And the Hebrew, it's not these people, it's ha'am hazeh. This people, al makomo yavo v'shalom, will go to their place in peace. Yeah. And what struck me this time is it's not these people here right now, it's the whole people Israel you're going to set them up to go home in peace. And of course, what home are we talking about? Where are they headed? They're headed to the promised land. And that's exactly what Yitro is doing, is he's giving Moses the tools to set up a new people so that they can govern themselves in a way that will not weary them.
Moses did not know how to be a leader. This really points home. He didn't know how to delegate. We're going to see Moses get frustrated time and time again and not know how to handle the people in front of him. And, possibly that's one of the reasons why God decided that Moses should not move as leader into the promised land, is that here they are in another situation, and how's he gonna know how to lead them?
I think it's also, it reminds me of when I first came out of rabbinical school, and you really, you have a clue of what you're doing, but you really don't have a clue of what you're doing. It almost like being parents as well, right? You're handed this baby and you're like, now what do I do with this? This is great, but now we have these responsibilities. And what I'm actually struck by was Yitro's advice in how Moses should be the leader and what he should be doing as far as, so, he's sitting there, right? And there's this long line of people. That doesn't work out well for anybody when you got to stand in line. It's like the DMV. Everybody's upset. Everybody's, it's not a good situation. But, the advice was take the larger issues, take the big issues, the supreme, I believe the wording was every major dispute. Mm-hmm. And then appoint these other people to take some of the smaller ones. So you have traffic court, and then you have criminal court. Just to put it into some sort of modern day, idea. And maybe that's senior rabbi to assistant rabbi. I don't really know. But, don't you think that's kind of interesting that not only is Moses being advised on how to change his perspective on how to lead the community, but to make the determination of what is big within the community and what is not. How does he know
that? And how do and even more so, how do these tribal heads who he's appointing, these judges, first of all, how does he know who to choose? Jethro gives him amazing advice, which is choose someone who can't be bribed and is God-fearing, right? Choose someone who is in tune with the objectives of the people, with this covenant that you're making. This is coming from a foreign priest, but how do they know if they haven't done it before?
And that really struck me, because here he is, choose men who, it says fear God, but Yirah is still in awe of God and everything else. What? Yitro, our God?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
He's saying, and these chieftains don't know who God is yet.
Yes.
We haven't experienced God other than through the plagues and so on. And that's all with Moses and his staff. So he's saying, choose these chieftains who fear God or are in awe of God, or at least know who God is. And I'm not sure Moses knows who they are. It's really a tough task.
He does. To be fair, Yitro does define the moral, I guess what you would call the moral, qualifications of what is supposed to be. But I think it does go back to that, like, you don't know me. Right. you don't know us. I just think there's a lot of interesting community-wide things going on here.
Right. And when we see the same passage in Deuteronomy, in Varim, he's going to say it differently. He's going to use different qualities for these leaders.
We see in Deuteronomy, we see him as an established, successful, effective leader, has developed the nuance and knows what to expect. But right now, in this moment with Yitro, it's Yitro who is the experienced leader. I'm really thinking about this role of mentor that Yitro has put himself into, and how he has given Moses the advice in a way he can hear it. So he's talking about Adonai and those who have Yirah of Adonai. And as you said, that this is not the Midianite God that he as a priest serves, right? He is twisting and giving the advice so that in a way that Moses can hear and Moses can implement at this level of him being like baby leader, right? Beginning leader. And he's chosen to put himself into that mentor role. This whole piece is about leadership. It's about Yitro as a leader, and it's about Moses as a leader. And then Moses immediately has to turn around and choose new leaders. It's really profound.
Yeah, at some point though, if we're going to put this also in modern text, or maybe something that's relatable to our lives, depending on, I mean, we're the three of us are rabbis, and there are many other professions in this world, leadership professions. I mean, at some point, we're all thrown into the wolves. We're all thrown in to be able to say, all right, here's the situation, now deal with it and figure out how to do this. And I'm very grateful to have multiple mentors who have actually, one of my mentors is sitting right on this call right now, who and so I think there's something to be said for having and surrounding yourself and trusting in those people that will help you make yourself better and make your communities stronger in whatever line of work you're in.
And I think what Yitro is also showing us is it doesn't have to be the exact line of work. And it's, we all read this through our own lens. We're all reading this as rabbis, and I'm reading this as a woman rabbi, and I'm thinking about the glass ceiling and how important mentorship is for women in new careers and in professional life. And often those mentors have been men. And so there's someone who hasn't walked that exact path. And here we have Yitro not walking a very different path than Moses is walking, and yet being able to mentor him to break that glass ceiling, to create a new people.
Can I go ahead, Rabbi?
Rabbi Joe.
I'm good.
Oh, okay. Well, I wanted to kind of take this on another different angle that we've kind of hit upon, but we actually haven't really yet. Thinking about just the horrific events that happened last Shabbat, and thinking about, did any of you, were you able to tune in or at least watch at some point the healing service, the interfaith healing service that happened in Texas, by any chance? I mean, it was incredibly powerful, and I think it speaks also to it doesn't matter if you're the same faith. It doesn't even matter if you're the same denomination of the same faith, right?
Right.
We may have different perspectives, but we're all in this together type idea. And that interfaith mentorship also, I think, is incredibly valuable as well. And I don't want to forget about the fact that as a Midianite, it's different than what an Israelite would be. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's just a different perspective.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
a different approach. When we talk interfaith, it's different paths to the same goal.
Right.
And the question, and I think we often lose sight of that, because there are people within each religion who decide not to look at that as a common goal and choose their own goal, and therefore the religion itself gets twisted a little bit in the perception.
And yet, as you and as the example that you're talking about, Rabbi Bryan, with the interfaith service, healing service, and in this moment of a Midianite priest and an Israelite prophet, that difference is actually a strength. That having different perspectives, having a different faith, coming from a different culture, having different lived experiences, all of these things contribute to a broader understanding and a deeper understanding of our world and of truth and of ways to live.
So what I'd like to do now is flip us over, because we really should mention Aser Tadibur,
the Ten Commandments.
Okay, we and it's funny because I refuse to call it 10 Commandments, because I see that there's more than 10 in there. And on an interfaith level, if you study on an interfaith level, you'll find different traditions numbering the commandments differently, approaching them differently. And yet these are the basic concepts that really make us all have a common set of goals. The values we use or the approaches we use are often different, but the goal remains the same, and that is peace and getting together as a community. You know, the differences are in definition. There are differences in approach, but the goal needs to remain the same. And this is that interfaith understanding that we carry.
Yeah.
You look at the first commandment, I'm the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God, and the first thing you go is that a commandment or identity statement? And our commentators had the same problem. They argue back and forth. So it's not unusual or even inappropriate to argue about what we've got in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there is one of the things that really hit me very hard when I was first looking at it in Hebrew was when you have the command, you shall have no other gods in my face. Apanai. It's like, okay, you're learning how to be a people. You have a different group. These are not all Jacob's clan. They're this mixed multitude that's in front of you. And that they all have different gods that they've been following. How do you deal with that? Just don't put them in front of me. Not in my face. Allow everyone to have his or her own background and their path to this place. And we're going to move forward together. Don't get hard on them. Don't require them all to be the same mold. Allow the diversity, allow them to grow into understanding who I am, who we are, and where we're going. And the amazing sensitivity that's in that statement is not understood the first, second, or third time you read it, because you're so busy trying to put them all together and see what the whole package is. And yet, when you break it apart and look at it like that, there's amazing understanding and sensitivity going on that we just don't appreciate.
It frustrates me in a way when some people say, when you look at the first of the 10, I am Adonai your God. You have one job. That's it, right? One job. It's that. And in viewing it in the perspective you're viewing it, Rabbi Joe, yes, you have one job, but in the end, it's not always that simple. And I don't know. I mean, I think when you're looking at somebody has clear and definitive expectations for all of us or for any of us at some point, if those expectations aren't 100% clear, or we all have different backgrounds that might be able to, put the ebb and the flow in what those expectations might look like. It's a challenge. It's not as easy as I am Adonai your God, except it should be.
So Bryan, what was the one job? When you say you have one job, what do you mean by that?
Pray to me. I'm God. There's only one of me, and that's it. Yeah. This is what you got to know.
And I think that what you just said and what you said, Rabbi Joe, are not in conflict, and it's a really important clarification, because we're not, while this shows this point of like, don't do it in my face, shows a sensitivity and a sense of inclusion. This is a creation of a people that's mission and covenant driven, right? This is one people out of all the peoples. There's other ways to do it, and God's really clear. To be part of my people, you need to accept me as your one God. And it's this idea of I want you to be on a journey to me, right? Capital M, me, right? And it's okay that you don't start where you're going to finish. It's literally a journey, right? It's a journey through the desert and the wilderness, but we all walk on that journey and that wilderness. And this definition that we have right here of the Jewish people is this mission-driven relationship with God that starts in that first utterance, that first ceremony.
Right. And there's nothing, there's nothing that compares to God, obviously. However, eat healthy, right? Have a healthy lifestyle. That's your goal. I don't like Brussels sprouts, but Rabbi Joe may love Brussels sprouts. Do you?
I'm allergic to them.
Okay, so you can't even do it. So that's what I'm saying. Everybody,
I'm getting hungry for Brussels sprouts. So
yeah, I mean, everybody has their different path to get to the main goal, and exactly. I think that's what we're talking about here.
So I think the real crux of our conversation is we're still at a starting point. Mm-hmm. These commandments are not the be all end all. They're the beginning of understanding who we are as a people and where we have to go. We're still at remember Shabbat. We're not even close to Zachor. I mean, to Shamor. Yeah. We're still at Zachor at Shabbat Kodsho. Even remembering something and knowing it exists starts to make you a holy people. You're going to learn how as we get going. So when we have this whole concept, starting with what you were saying first, Rabbi Miriam, about learning how to get your arms around these people and start to move them along, learn how to be a leader to these people. These people are starting to learn how to be led. It's really a starting point that we're dealing with. All this stuff beforehand, it's gotten us to a point where we can now start to set up. And I think it was a good thing that we had to take at least a year at Sinai before moving on to get established.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to thank you guys. I think this has been just a terrific discussion. You both have brought so much into it, and I just love working with you. Thank you so much.
What a pleasure to start off our Shabbat study together.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much, and thank you all for tuning in. It'll be same time, same channel next week for next week's Torah portion. But until then, thank you, Rabbi Miriam. Thank you, Rabbi Joe. And we wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, a Shabbat full of peace, wholeness, and completeness.
And thank you, Rabbi Bryan. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.